Joining us now, Bryan Stephens. He is the president and CEO, that's like a big title, of the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. He's a veteran, has a very long and storied career. And look, Bryan Stephens, great to have you, man.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, John. Thank you for having me this morning.
All right, now just remember, you heard it here first. Trump is going to win this election. I know you're nonpartisan. I just wanted to tell you he's going to win November 8th. And I want you to turn CNN on and watch everybody's hair go on fire at once. So bring the fire extinguishers. Now, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, can we chat about this a moment, please?
Sure.
Okay, we need this pipeline in Hampton Roads because we don't have enough energy to support, number one, all of our military installations, and number two, the coming growth to the area. And so all of us in Virginia, we're at an energy crossroads with new clean air standards requiring coal plants getting shut down. Virginia has the opportunity and an urgent need to access a new, cleaner, and reliable source of energy. That's natural gas that's through the pipeline. Where are we on this?
Well, the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce is 100% behind the Atlantic Coast Pipeline for reasons you just stated, John. We need an abundance of energy, especially when you look at our business community, and we need to keep the energy costs down. The more we can reduce expenditures to our businesses, especially our small businesses, the more likelihood they are of being successful. So we support the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. We're very familiar with the companies that are involved in the joint venture, and we support them in their efforts to bring more clean energy to Hampton Roads.
You know, Bryan, right now, the only source of energy that's capable of replacing the large amounts of power provided by coal, which is being curtailed by the Obama administration, as we know, destroying our jobs in Southwest Virginia, is natural gas. And better yet, natural gas is clean, it's affordable, it's reliable. It generates half the carbon emissions of coal and an even smaller fraction of other common air emissions. But here's the bottom line. We have it, but you got to access it, and you have to transport it, Bryan. And there's only three ways, right? Truck, train, pipeline. That's it.
Right. And when you look at those three ways, John, the safest and most reliable way is through a pipeline.
Not only that, with a pipeline, when you get that installed, then you can have manufacturing plants that can move in proximity to the pipeline and access the natural gas right at its origin. So it's a jobs and manufacturing plant magnet, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a economic development driver. You're going to see economic development, businesses, jobs be created through the establishment of this pipeline. Plus, it makes Hampton Roads more attractive. When there's an abundance of energy, low-cost, clean energy, it's going to be more attractive to bring other companies to the region.
You know, but here's the reality. The current natural gas supply that we have to Southeast Virginia and to Central Virginia is very limited. In fact, what people don't realize is we've already experienced periods where the demand for natural gas in this area has exceeded the supply. So what that means is the service to industrial companies had to be curtailed. So right now you own a company, you're in this area, and there's been times where you can't get the energy you need. Well, obviously you're not going to expand, and obviously the first chance you get to move out of here, you are, because you got to get, look, you can't survive without the energy, right?
Yeah, that's right, John. But I will tell you that, from my perspective, Dominion, Virginia Natural Gas, and others have done an extraordinary job at providing their customers with reliable energy. Obviously, there's peaks in the summer and possibly the winter where the energy requirements are surged, which may be somewhat problematic. But again, Dominion and Virginia Natural Gas and others have done an excellent job. What I'm appreciative of is the fact that they are looking ahead to the future. And, they're doing what's necessary now to set the conditions so that businesses in Hampton Roads can have reliable energy into the future. if this Atlantic Coast Pipeline goes as scheduled, we'll be reaping the benefits of it hopefully in late 2018. So that's just a couple of years from now. We can have an abundance of good, clean energy, which is more reliable than it is now.
If we can get the pipeline in, Bryan, by 2018. Now, 2018 is the goal. What stands in the way of getting this done?
Well, they're still doing the surveys, finding the path. I'm sure, as you can imagine, there's some legal hurdles that they're getting over as far as land use and the environment. But again, from my perspective, they're doing the right things right now to ensure that the pipeline gets laid. It's done in a safe manner that has really minimal impact to our environment. So they're not rookies at this, John. They've done it before. They know what they're doing, and I can tell you from personal actions with the leadership of the companies that are involved in this joint venture, they truly care about the business community. They truly care about the community in general. They address their civic corporate responsibilities in a meaningful manner on a continuous basis, and I'm just impressed with the way they run their businesses, and I know that they have the environment in mind when they're planning this pipeline.
Now, look, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, Bryan, the other thing it does, it's going to ensure that our area's vital naval bases operations have the energy needed, because that's the top priority. And also, when we talk about bases moving, this is the other area. It's why I was one of the only Republicans in favor of the 2013 transportation compromise that McDonnell had and that Bill Howe was for. Because, look, I had Admiral Haley on my show back in early 2013 who said, I love Norfolk, I love your region, I love everything you guys do, but if I can't transport troops because you don't have the roads, I got to get out of here. I mean, I can't. He said right in the air, he said, I cannot recommend another carrier home itself in your Norfolk naval base if I don't have any roads. I'll go to Jacksonville. They'll build roads. I mean, This is just reality, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars. You got the same thing. If the military, if the Navy doesn't have the energy it needs, well, they're not going to expand here, right?
Well, you're exactly right, John. Look, BRAC and sequestration is a reality. That's the world that we live in now. In Hampton Roads, we're extremely blessed in that we have all 5 branches of the military service here, and there's a reason that they're here. But times change, and like I said, BRAC and sequestration is a reality. So we in the business community, we as a community have to do everything we can to set the conditions so that the military wants to stay here. Hampton Roads needs to remain the best place in the world for the United States military to be home station. We have to create the infrastructure. That infrastructure is the roads that you're talking about, and it's providing energy, it's providing a good quality of life for our military members, their families, and veterans. So, yeah, energy is a big part of that. And when the Pentagon looks at where they need to reduce forces or where they need to move forces that are more accommodating to what they need, they're going to look at things like energy. And so this is another perfect example, John, of why we need to continue to support the Atlantic Coast Pipeline.
So, Bryan, lay out for our listeners right now, what is the Chamber doing to ensure that we get the Atlantic Coast Pipeline here up and running and installed by 2018? Please be specific.
Well, we obviously are supporting the efforts to get the Atlantic Coast Pipeline in place and here. We're advocating for it at the local, state, and federal level. And, we're unabashful about our efforts to try to shape public perception for the need for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. So, again, we have an active campaign in support of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline.
All right, more information. You want to go to the Coalition for EnergyShore.com. Go to coalition.energyshore.com. Coalition.energyshore.com. Look, I love pipelines. I love roads. I love trucks. I love trains. I love barrels. I love industry. I love jobs, right? I get excited if I go down the street and I see cones and barrels. Other people say, oh, there's going to be traffic jam. I get excited. I like roads being built. I like barrels. I like cones. I love shovels. And we need this pipeline to get the energy we need to get the jobs in this area, because if you can sustain job growth, everything in your world changes. That's absolutely what we need. So I want to thank Bryan Stephens. Thanks for your work. Sometimes it's lonely to be an advocate of this stuff, especially when those that are opposed to it make a lot of noise. They jump up and down. Yeah. This is the other thing, Bryan. The anti-Atlantic Coast pipeline people, whoever they are, these are not like people that just pop up in your neighborhood or your subdivision. These are paid protesters. They get $10 an hour and a box lunch, basically. George Soros pays for them, ships them all over Virginia to protest. It's a bunch of malarkey, right? I mean, I've seen the same protesters all over the state come in on buses. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, John, I guess what I'd say to that is, ain't America great? I mean, like you said, I served in the military for a long time to support the freedoms that we have here in the United States. And one of those freedoms is the ability to protest and voice your opinion. But ultimately, I think what's right for our economy, what's right for our citizens here in Hampton Roads and in the Commonwealth is going to prevail. And I think that's the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. All
right, we'll see what plays out. We'll keep advocating for that. And I want to thank Bryan Stephens for being with us, President and CEO of the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for being with us, Bryan.